Good morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me. If you can hear me, please can you say hello in the chat, because I can't see my own screen, which is kind of weird. But good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning, good morning. Hey, there we go. We've got a hello. Yay, that's brilliant. So for those who don't know me, my name is hello. So for those who don't know me, my name is Sarah. I help. I'm on the committee. I also help Bex with anything and everything events, and my username on PonyCon on Discord is Tanya Van, after one of my favorite characters. So this is just so has anybody been to my previous workshop before we go ahead? So has anybody been to the ones I did before? So either the one online or the one I did in Nottingham last year. So has anybody been to the one before? Or is this the first time you've come to this workshop? Make sure my chat hasn't stopped. Okay, I'm not sure what's happening there. I'm not getting any responses in chat. Oh, there we go. We have responses. Okay, we've got new. Okay, cool, cool, cool. Okay, so we've got quite a few new timers. Okay, that's fine. Okay. Cool. Brilliant. Okay, last one's online was OnlineCon. Brilliant, that's fine. So so this is, so to give you a bit of background, this is a workshop to work on original characters. To give you some background on myself, as I say, I'm one of the committee members. I've also been writing original characters for the past 20 years. So I've got a little bit of experience in writing original characters. I write them for a variety of reasons, mostly for fun, but also mostly as well for fan fiction and also for artwork too. So what we'll do is we'll cover some of the basics I covered in the last session, and then we'll cover the next 3 steps to go ahead, because many of you may have OCs and they may have followed the original rules. So let's do a quick recap of what I spoke about last time. So last time we focused on the 6 main traits of setting up a backstory, which is what, who, when, where, why, how. So if you're writing a backstory for your character, these are the 6 main areas to focus on. What are they? Who are they? When did they live? Where did they live? And why did they live? And how did they live? You know, how are they came to be? Why are they there? So these are questions that you ask yourself when you're creating the backstory, as to how to make out this character. So it does help you creating that backstory before you even think about the physical traits. So what do they look like? What color is their hair? These all help answer those questions. For example, you wouldn't want somebody who works in a coal mine to be brightly colored. It's not going to work. You want somebody to be a little bit darker colored. That would work a little bit better. You'd want somebody who's maybe stronger in the army. If you wanted to go into an army persona, you need somebody who's physically fit, maybe from an army background. So these help answer those questions. So we focused heavily on these 6. We then also focused on making a standout character. So look, yep, really cool. So we also focused on making a character stand out. We focused on this chap called Mr. Stick. Now, I brought up Mr. Stick that you don't have to be a standout artist to create an OC. You don't. You can be any sort of level to create any original character. You just have to make it. You just have to make it stand out. You have to make it special. So we kind of focused on the standout parts. Yep. So what makes a character stand out? Type. So a lot of people certainly in the My Little Pony fandom, they focus just on ponies. Great, it's easy enough to do, it's fantastic, but there are, especially since the movies come out, you can open up different types of character. So you can have, for example, the hippogriffs, you can have deer, you can have all sorts of different animals, even draconequuses. I've seen draconequuses. I've seen all these lovely I've seen lovely OCs in the chat. It's great. So you can focus on lots and lots of different things. Yep, zebra, perfect. So different types of characters are really, really good. So different species. You also focus on age. So you can have a lot of people try and match their OCs to the age of the main characters, which is fine. You know, it's great, but actually experimenting with age is really, really good. So you can have somebody who's really young, or you can have somebody who's really old. The nice thing about having an older character, you get more experience, but you can actually go really, really young as well. Next, we focused on location. So you don't have to have it in Ponyville or Equest. You know, you can have it in. You don't even have to even in Equestria, or Cancelot or anywhere like that. You can have it anywhere you want in the world. We created our own sort of imaginary town, which worked really well. Or even Yakistan works really, really well as well. And we focused again. This is more on age again. Again, we kept it all on age. And then finally, we focused on when. So we focused on having it in the future or in the past. In the past is really, really cool, but you have to be mindful of the events that happens after it, because you've got the episodes we presume the episode will be at current time. So we treat that as now. But if you go in the past, you have to reflect the future. But if you go in the future, it's much more open, but you have to reflect the past. So it's really cool to have the two. As I say, I'm seeing so many OCs in the chat. It's so cool to see the OCs. And keep coming in. It's great. Seeing back ponies and anything. So yeah, the future is just Fallout Equestria. Well, it could be, but you could go on any tangent you want. It's completely up to you. Now that the series has ended, you now have a definitive canon to work with. So nothing's really going to change. And with a series that's ongoing, it's very, very difficult to write future or past. But now that you've got the set, perfect. So that's what we focused on last time. So let's say, for example, you've written your backstory, you're happy. We're now going to focus on the next 3 steps. And I just call them the next 3 steps. Traits. Okay, and this is where the I've just seen all these OCs, it's great. So this is where this Excel file comes in. So you'll notice I posted an Excel file in the chat. Okay, so we're going to focus on traits, and we'll have a bit of a play around with some traits. The next step is also integration. So integration is very important, and that's how others perceive your character. So how do you introduce them to the chat? How do you introduce them to the fandom you want to introduce them to? So let's say, for example, how do you introduce them to fan fiction? How do you introduce them to your artwork? How do you get your character noticed within the fandom? So that one's very important, is the integration. How do you mix your character in with characters that people already know? And then finally, development. Development, we're going to look at the 7 stages of development. We're going to look at the 7 types of development. And we're also going to look into the development can keep going on and on and on. So that's a really good one to consider. So first things first, let's have a look at traits. So does anybody know, before we go ahead, does anybody know what a trait is? So does anybody have any idea what traits are? You can just type it in the chat. As I say, it's just all in the chat. Okay. Cool. Okay. So traits are a distinguishing quality or characteristic typically belonging to one person. So it could be a behavior. It could be a feeling. It can be lots of different things. Now, when I started to research traits, I I found this website that had 638 traits, and when you type in the word traits into Google, you get all sorts of different things. But this, it is, yeah. I had to. I had to sort of take a little bit of liberty, but where this page that I have helps me massively when I'm creating an OC, because you'll get so many things thrown at you, saying that you have to have these 7 types of traits, these 8 types of traits, this, but actually I keep it very, very simple. It's a core behavior. So for me, I'm quite caring. That is my core behavior. It's what makes me me. I'm also quite, I can be quite cocky. I can be quite silly. So again, these are all traits that make me me. So it's my core being. It can't be changed. So you can amend your behavior, but you cannot change it. You cannot change a trait, because that is who you are. So, for example, you can learn to be you can't learn to be caring, but you can learn to be considerate. So it's something that you can amend, but never sort of change your absolute core. And also it defines that character. It defines who they are. So you can have, so for me, myself, as I said, I'm quite a caring person. That defines who I am. People know that I'm caring. People know that I'm, that if they need me, they know that I can help. So they know what I'm about. So there's 3 types of traits. You've got positive traits, negative traits, and neutral traits. Again, people believe that if you're wanting to create a good character, so a character on the side of good, you'd have to have all positive traits. If you have a character that's negative, you have to have all negative traits. It's nothing like that of the sort. And this is why I've got that list. Neutral traits can fit into both. You can have lots of different traits, but you try not to have too many. So let's have a look at the list. So these are just an example of some of the positive traits you can have. Now, positive doesn't mean it's always happy. So, for example, just to choose out of some of the traits there, a decisive is considered a positive trait. Articulate is a positive trait because it enhances the character. Invulnerable, non-authoritarian, again, can also be quite positive. So there's a lot of things that you could be there. And one of the things that I do love is clumsy. Clumsy is not on this list. Anybody puts clumsy, it's not on the list. So you can have all these different traits. And these apply to villainous characters as well. So I would expect a villainous character to be maybe clear-headed, which is again a positive trait. Contemplative, maybe they're contemplating their evil schemes. Also, they could be quite disciplined. Usually a villainous character, if we think of James Bond sort of thing, they have to be quite decisive. They have to be quite disciplined because they'll have people and underlings below them. So that's something that can be seen in a villainous character. In a good character, obviously, you can be well-bred, well-rounded. That's also quite good as well. So these are some of the traits that you can have. And I'd recommend maybe keep it simple with these traits. Don't go too crazy. Then we've got, go back into them, neutral traits. So these are traits that are neither sort of positive or negative. So absent-minded could be a positive, but it also could be a negative trait. Aggressive. Now, a lot of people say, well, aggressive is quite an evil thing to have. It's not. You would expect a superhero to be aggressive because they have to fight. So they have to have that aggressive tone to them. So they could fit into both. High-spirited. You can have a villain that's quite high-spirited, that's quite passionate about what they do. you know, and we would expect them to be also be outspoken as well, but you can have a hero that's quite outspoken. So these fit into both sort of positive and negative. They can be seen as both. So again, maybe one or two from this list would work really well with a well-rounded character. And then finally, we're into negative traits. Now, there's a lot of negative traits. So these are traits that a lot of people tend to avoid because they don't want their character to have flaws, but flaws will make the character. They really, really do. So it's very important for characters to have flaws. Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, neutral is a neutral trait. You can be neutral, so you can be. So with a neutral character, they may not just want to pick a side. They may just say, okay, I'm just not picking a side. I'm just going to go right down the middle. That's it. I'm done. But yeah, there's a lot of negative traits. But again, you can apply these to hero characters. So, for example, a hero character may be superstitious. I know Batman is. He's superstitious about bats. He doesn't like them, but he dresses up as Batman. Hey-ho. You can also have a hero that's disruptive. So you can have someone that's quite disruptive. A hero can be quite disruptive because they may cause damage. So I do apologize. Cuckoo clock's going off. I forgot to turn it off. Sorry about that. They also can be quite complacent as well. So there's quite a lot in negatives. Like I said before, don't feel that you have to have a ton of negative comments to make a bad character. You don't. You can have a ton of positive traits to make a good character. So yeah, Bruce Banner's got rage issues. So that could be a negative trait there. Rage is one of my understatements. I love it. So there's a lot of things there that can be in negative. So it's definitely worth, and you're more than welcome to take that list away and have a look at them. So what we're going to do is I'm using that list and using the chat. I don't mind you spamming the chat. So we're going to have a look at some characters, and I want you to see if you can list some traits for that character. So we'll look at 4. So we're going to look at 2 My Little Pony characters and 2 non-My Little Pony characters, just because we can then, you can see that this works on any level. So it doesn't have to work in the community. This works on all of them. I don't mind. I'm actually a staff member on a mob, so it's fine. I'm monitoring the own chat. So as long as you don't spam it with bad things, it's fine. But you can put, what I want is just single words of what you feel could be a positive, a neutral, or a negative trait about the character. So it's going to be fine. So let's have a look at the characters we're going to choose. And yeah, we'll see what we say. So let's go for a positive. So positive traits about this character, about Angel Bunny. Okay. So well-meaning. So you could be well-meaning, but you could do something wrong. Yeah. So caring, yep. Mischief, yep. Kind, yep. Cute is negative, yep. That's fine. Well-intentioned, yes. So I'd expect Rainbow Bunny to be well-intentioned. You know, he wants to do good. Loving, yeah, absolutely. He gives hugs. You know, he is a very loving character. Yes, annoying, yes. Fun-loving. Yeah, I can see that work. Sweet, yeah. So there's quite a lot of positives in there. What about some neutral traits? Hungry. Wait till you get to the others. So what about loyal? Okay. I'll give you some time to have a look at that list. White's not a trait. So we'll see what it says. But yeah, try and think of some neutral traits. Okay, yeah, high-spirited, great. Yep. I'd say energetic, definitely. Proud? Yep, certainly proud. What about negative traits? So this one might be a little easier with this character. Yep. All of them. You can't use all of them. Okay, bossy, definitely. You know, self-centered, absolutely. Yep, okay. Several people are typing. Yep. Yes, hyperactive, but that could be seen more neutral because hyperactive can be a neutral trait because you've seen it as a positive trait as well because you might want somebody to be hyperactive. Inconsiderate, definitely. Yep, selfish and stubborn. Cool. So that's Angel Bully. Let's have a look at another one. What about this guy? What about Tirek? So what positive things could you think about Tirek? I'm going to get on to antagonistic in a minute. And I'll tell you why I say, but yeah, absolutely. Strong? Yeah, absolutely. Focused and determined. Yeah, completely. He wants to get what he wants. Yeah, domineering. Yep. What about assertive? That's another one. Proud. Yep. Assertive is a good one. You know, he's wanting to assert his dominance. Absolutely. Yep. Confident, intelligent. Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So great. And you can see there's a lot of positive traits. What about neutral traits? It can be subjective, yeah. This is the whole task about this, so it is subjective. Moral, yep. So neutral traits. Cruel, I would say opportunistic definitely is a yep. Ambitious, yep. It can, yeah. Manipulative, yeah, it can be a neutral. That's okay. Cool. And I know I'm going to get a lot of these, but what about negative traits? Stern? Yeah, I would say stern. Vindictive, evil, devious. Evil's quite a broad spectrum, so I try and stay away from evil, but certainly vindictive, definitely. Villainous, yeah. Self-centered, absolutely. Power hungry, yes. Yeah, power hungry is a definite one. Yep. Narcissistic, yep. Petty, yeah. So there's some great examples there. That's brilliant. So let's have a look. Let's see if we can apply what we've done, what we've learned to out of fandom characters. Indulgent, yeah, as Indulgent would work with Tirek. He is very, very greedy. So yeah, Indulgent would work. So let's see about Captain Hook. So what about positive in Captain Hook? Yeah, Indulgent would be a good one. Sorry, you'll have to excuse me. I've got a bit of a sore throat this morning. Pride? Yeah, proud. Definitely proud. Inspiring. Beautiful. You know, what about being a leader? You know, he's a leader. He's a captain. No, he's got leadership skills. Healthy respect for crocodiles. Petty's more sort of maybe a negative, but creative definitely is a good one. Leader skills, yeah. Charismatic, yeah. He holds himself, he holds himself very, very high. He's also well-bred. That's also a positive trait, is well-bred. He's come from to be a captain, you've got to come from a very wealthy family. So that's something that Captain Hook is Peter Pan's nemesis. So yeah, so well-bred's another one. What about neutral? One-handedness. Well, you could say that he's ambidextrous. It's a trait. Yeah, ever comes down to, I'd say ambidextrous. Bread. No bread. So what about neutral? We shall refrain from bread. We'll do the bread memes at the end. Yep. Cautious. Yeah. Cautious could be a neutral trait. And yeah, particularly around crocodiles. But yeah, he's very cautious. It could be inventive. He has to invent those plans. Could be seen as a neutral trait, is inventive. So, okay. I'm not 100% sure why masculine is a positive and effeminate is a neutral. Not sure. I always say it's a difficult one, really, to say that. I mean, I don't really like to use masculinity and effeminacy in my OCs, and I'll get to that point in a minute. I'll get to that point later on. I do touch on that later on. So I'm not sure. I mean, I would personally refrain from that, really. But as I say, it is a society. But for me, it's all about, when you create an OC, you have to create it as equality rather than for society. Because remember, your audience is, especially with the internet, the world. You don't know who you're speaking to. And again, I will touch on that when we look at the development side of things, and you'll see, yeah, we live in a society. I know we do, but the way that I see it is that I try and see everything as equal. Yeah. So, but yeah, let's move on to negative. So nobody sees a head. So let's think about negative traits. Self-centered, yeah. Uncaring. Yeah, he doesn't care about himself. He locked Tinkerbell away in a box. So vindictive, maybe that would work. Hot-tempered. Vain, yeah. Arrogant. Villainous. So I would say he's also boastful as well. Cruel. Selfish, yeah, selfish. Violent, yeah. He uses a sword. So cold-hearted. Abusive. Yeah, I think abusive would fit in there, but he's not really. He is abusive to an extent, yeah. But yeah, cold-hearted definitely would fit. But let's have a look at the last one. Now, the last one's going to create some controversy, and I do apologise I'm putting him in, but I don't care. I'm putting him in. Oh, no, boy. Right, good qualities about Gordon. If you know, Gordon is he did kidnap 2 kids. He kidnapped 3 kids, really. He kidnapped 5 kids, to be honest. Because he kidnapped the kids, yes. Kind, yes. Strong, fast, yep. He's trained. He's my boy. So, Gordon. He's my boy. So, he's strong, he's fast. He's arrogant. Helpful, yeah, absolutely. You know, Gordon is the big, strong, tender engine. He's like a big, strong express engine, but he's very, very proud. But he's also very kind. He's arrogant. He's quite boastful, but he's also extremely kind. And you don't see that very much in the show because you see this big bossy thing with this. You probably see him with an angry face on him, but it's really, really cool. But yeah, proud is Neutral's negative trait. Proud can be also a positive trait. You can be proud. So yeah, he was green. He was green back in the day. He was originally green, but they changed him to blue, which was awesome. So yes, but he is very, very helpful. He's lovely. So what about neutral traits? So this one's going to be a little bit more difficult. So neutral traits. Big. Thomas Small gone big. You can, yeah, Henry is green, but Gordon was green before the books. So yeah, he was young when if you read the story of Gordon the Big Engine, when Gordon goes foreign, he does say in the book, when I was young and green, because he used to work in London. But then again, that's me going over the top. So this boy is, as I say, with neutral traits, he's strong. Would track mind. Actually, he does. Actually, yeah, I would go with that. He does. So yeah, strong can be seen as neutral as well. He's obviously blue as well. And fast. Yeah, he's very fast. Okay. What about, let's have a look at some negative traits now. Goes choo-choo. So one of the negative traits he has is while he's proud, he's prideful. So prideful is quite different. Basically, he's boastful and cocky, and he has this view that everything's beneath him, and everything's beneath him. You'll have often, condescending. That's the word. So he's quite condescending, full of himself. Yeah, quite often the other engines go, "You're too big for your buffers," full of himself and cool. Blows a lot of hot air. Yeah. So he's quite prideful. So yeah, he's as I say, but it's amazing though, because he's constantly on fire. Yeah, he does. But it's amazing that some people actually regard this character as a villain. But actually, when you think about it, there's not really, there's not often a lot of negative traits in him. He's actually quite a good character. So we're going to move on. So we're going to move on to some points to consider. So I've just written out some points that maybe consider when using traits. So all negative traits do not make an evil character. We've already proved that. So you don't have to put a ton of negative traits in to make an evil character. You can have a lot of positive traits that will make just a good of evil character. And it goes underneath. All positive traits do not make a good character. So you need a balance of all three. Yeah. Traits can be managed, but cannot be changed or learned. So you can manage how you look after your negative traits, but you cannot change your negative traits. You can learn to live with them, but you cannot learn to be caring. You cannot learn to be evil. You cannot learn to be vindictive. You cannot do that. It's not in people's nature. Less is more. Yeah, you have lots of different negative traits, lots of positives. Flying Scotsman, that'll do. So less is more. So you don't have to stick a ton of traits in there for it to be good. One or two maybe of each would be quite enough. And please just don't stick clumsy in there. Clumsy is not one of those traits. And finally, traits define behavior. So they define how your character's going to be. So they're very important. And you can take away those lists and have a look through it and think, actually, my character could be this, this, and this, but it's something you've got to stick with right through your character's life. So you can't suddenly just change it halfway through. You have to go with it. If you're not happy, you can develop the character to lessen those traits, but those traits would never go away completely. And again, we're going to refer back to Gordon. He's always been proud. Now, could have been a negative trait. All the way through his life, he's always retained that pride, but he's learned to live with it. So it's very, very good that traits define behavior. Now, yeah, that's it. She knew how to, yeah, so she changed, but with Fluttershy, she still retained that shy behavior, but she learned to live with it. She didn't learn to overcome it. She learned to live with it, and she learned to be more confident. Now, confidence is slightly different because but that shyness is still there. I wouldn't expect her to go bounding up to somebody new, brand new, and go, "Hi, I'm Fluttershy. I'm here." She would never do that. She would still retain that shy streak because that's in her core. But yeah, it took her a while to be confident. Evil can be caused by the environment or personality, but personality can be the trait. Environment can also help with that. And again, I'm going to get into that development. So we've looked at traits, we've looked at integration. Well, we're going to look at the next one, which is integration. Checking the time, making sure. I'm going to have to be quite quick going through this, but we're nearly done. So integration. So adding your character to the fandom. So with adding characters to the fandom, it can be quite difficult. So we can add it in. I've picked out 3 core ways to add it: fan fiction, artwork, and role play. So role play could be like Dungeons and Dragons, Ogres and Oubliettes, that sort of thing. So we're going to look at fan fiction first. So this is more sort of leaning towards the fan fiction side. And what I've done is I went on. Who uses fanfiction.net? Who uses that? Does anybody use fanfiction.net? No? Okay. So not anymore. Some do. Okay. Okay. So this works for fan fiction. It works for fan fiction as well. And so what I've done is I've actually taken a few snippets and created my own little snippets that we would have for stories. So we're gonna have a look at those. So imagine I've just written a story. Okay, it's called A Sticky Arrival. Mr. Percival Stick arrived in Ponyville and gets more than he bargained for when he meets the main 6. What part's good? So straight away, you're introduced to that character. He's meeting the main 6. Not really much more in there. So let's say I write another story. Matter of quills and pencils. After settling into Ponyville, Mr. Six embarks on buying a new shop, but can he beat the competition? So if you're following that author, he's focusing on the Mr. Six side of things. So he's focusing on his OC. Now, it's not a bad thing to focus on it. You're trying to introduce it. But you can imagine that sometimes it can be like, oh, hang on a minute. This is another story about this Mr. Six. Where's the rest of the characters? Branching out. Mr. Six's new shop is a success. Now he can only convince Twilight to change her quills. Will he do it? We're introducing him back to Twilight. So straight away, you're wanting to sort of introduce your character, but it's actually forcing us to just to be about this one story character. But when you look at My Little Pony series, it's not about just the one. It's about all of them. And then finally, this one is a little bit of a contention for me. At the gala, my version of Mr. Six with the main Six first time at the Grand Galloping Gala, rewritten from episode. It is a bit of a bugbear when somebody messes with the canon. It's a personal bugbear. If you want to do it, you can, but it's a bit of a bugbear. Now, if you, let's say, for example, if you write all these stories and great, that's fantastic, you know. Yeah, but it is. You can't really mess with the canon, because straight away you're messing with what people's version of that story is. And I personally see it as a bit of a little bit bad towards the actual writers. They've made that story for a reason. Now, there's nothing to stop you having your character there while the main six are there, but to rewrite the episode to include your character can be off-putting to many people. And to give you an example, I have a fandom that I've been a part of since I was 14 years old. I'm going to tell you my age. I'm 36. Yeah. So it's over 20 years. I've been a member of this fandom for 22 years. And there was a girl on there a boy or a girl, who posted in fanfiction.net 60 stories about her character. And we're not just talking one a week, we're talking every single day. So she rewrote all of the episodes of this particular fandom to include her character. And every single one, she filled it. She also then started filling DeviantArt with pictures of her character every day, to a point where she stopped and then restarted again last year, putting the same stories online, just slightly rewritten so that it was modernized for the current time. And she then started putting another 60 plus the 20 or so stories she's written as well. And it actually drove me out of the fandom, because there was just so much already she was so blinkered on her character that she forgot about the fandom, and it put me off. So it is something to be very mindful. If you're writing fan fiction, instead of trying to insert and force your character through like that, why not write about the main six first? Why not introduce them maybe as a background character? You know, that would be a much more softer integration than it would be just literally like, I'm here, I'm going to write a million stories about her. There was also no development, but we'll go into that. So, and the same kind of works for artwork. A lot of people draw a lot of artwork, and I love the artwork. You can have as much artwork as you want. You can have something as simple as Mr. Stick. I drew that 2 minutes on a train. That's what I normally draw. But what I do when I'm doing an OC is the first thing I do is I actually draw the canon to know. And then once I'm established at drawing the canon, I then introduce my OC. Because then many people have already seen the canon and they go, oh, actually, yeah, okay, she can draw canon. And then you introduce your OC. Oh, brilliant, we've got an OC. That's great. You know, and you'll start getting a lot of feedback going, actually, yeah, I can see where you're going with this. Another way that you can make your character stand out as well is by doing a different generation. My Little Pony is so lucky, because you've got 4 generations at least, possibly even going into 5. So, and each style is different. So you can draw a G1, a G2, a G3.5, a G3, G4. You can draw any style. And yeah, exactly. You can do self-inserts. But that's what the previous story was about. But also you can also look at different vectors. So different types, so you can actually draw in pencil, pen, 3D animation. Really, really cool. So we're going to have a look at a few points to consider. Sorry, we're going to have a look at role play. Role play is another great way of Pony Creator. Yeah, we don't talk about the Pony Creator. So another great way to integrate your character is through role play. So either you create a costume for your character to create, to create people to talk about it. Great. I've never watched Buffy. Or you can introduce your character through you know, through Adventures of Equestria, so like this, so like through live action role play. But there's the best way to do it is probably, in terms of this, is just go slowly with it. You know, people will ask you questions if you go to live cons about your creations, which is awesome. So points to consider. Try working with just the original characters. Please try working with just the original. First, it gets you a feel for what it gets you a feel for the world. It gets you a feel for how they work, how they look, how they act. Really, really good. Try introducing your character as a background character. It is frustrating because you want your character to be thrust through you want your character to be thrust through, but it works really, really well. Don't be afraid to give your OC a rest. You know, I mean, I've actually taken OCs out of my series for about a year and then put them back in again. So don't be afraid to give your OC a rest. Please don't tamper with the canon. If you tamper with the canon, you will get burned. People do tamper with the canon and it's not right. It will mess with people. It will upset people if you do tamper with the canon. And the last one is slowly is the key. Don't think that your OC is going to be an instant success. My OC's taken many, many, many months for it to become established in you know, with other fans. So if people ignore your OC, please don't think that people are gonna, you know, hate it. It's just a fact it's not properly established yet. Final step, we're nearly there, and then we'll do a bit of Q&A. So last one is development. This one's a pretty cool one. So your character's in, your OC's in, it's established, it's integrated. Where do you go from here? Development is the process of building a 3D picture of the character through changes and under the course of the story and as a result of their experiences and actions. Yes, I know Wikipedia is a wonderful thing, but it's so true. So basically you've got your basic character, now it starts to flesh it out. You're starting to gain experiences. And there's 7 ways you can develop your character. So dynamic or round, antagonist, static, secondary, protagonist, and then finally stock and foil. Tampering with the cat, it does make it look tacky and bad. And you're right, Caldos. I hate tampering with OCs, tampering with canon. It just doesn't sit well with a lot of people. So let's have a look at some of the 7 types of development. I'll have to go a little bit quick because we've only got about 10 minutes. So dynamic and round. So this is where you get your ideas where environment plays a key. So if your environment is causing you to change, so for example, somebody's causing you to change, you would go down the dynamics or round type of development. Okay. Love can also make a character change. You know, can also develop a character, conflicting ideas, internal conflict as well. An example of dynamic or round is Discord. Okay, he's still evil to an extent. He still has those traits that he had before, but through conflicting ideas, internal conflict, when Fluttershy was hurt, he changed his ways. They're still there, but he's actually developed to learn to control those traits. So he's an example of dynamic and round. Next one's antagonist. Competes with another, conflict starter. So usually an antagonist is villain. Can sometimes be hero, but usually it's associated with villainy. Voldemort's a perfect example. So there's not really much to say. Headcanons, yeah, absolutely. But I'd introduce them carefully as a background character. Then we've got static characters. So no matter what happens to them in their environment, their personality is always remaining unchanged. Events don't often phase them, or if they do phase them, they don't show it. And they draw on learning experience from events without changing their character. Good example of this is actually Detective Hercule Poirot. Who's ever heard of Poirot? So Poirot is a Belgian detective. He's learned from his experience, but his actual demeanor never changes. He's still very clever. He's still very posh. She still has that well-bred attitude. And a lot of detectives are in that sort of static development. I know, it's amazing. I love Poirot. So we'll look at secondary characters. Information revealer. Love secondary characters because they are so underrated. So they're the ones that reveal the information. They define the plot. They're integral. They are the ones. So you could have a secondary character maybe as a, let's say, for example, a detective story. A secondary character could be the victim. You know, they define the plot. They are, it's so important. Luigi's a secondary character. Protagonist nearly always is the main character. It's always the main character. Nearly always is the hero. Can't have a protagonist as a villain. To be an antagonist with a protagonist as a foil, as a counteract. Twilight is easily a protagonist there. She's a goal achiever. She moves the story forward. So yeah, so protagonist, very, very important. Then got a stock character. Now, stock is something to be very, very careful with in terms of development. They're very important, but you have to be careful, especially today. So it's culturally perceivable. So these are your stereotypical characters, conventional, generic, usually simplified. You use stock, a lot of people use stock characters for comedic effect. However, stock characters can be offensive. So stock development can be offensive, like the crazy cat lady. She's a stock character. We all perceive what she's supposed to be like. However, some people may find that not very nice, but they are used for comedic. A foil. So finally, you've got foil. So foils are the opinion voicer. They can be seen as antagonistic. So, like for example, Draco Malfoy from the Harry Potter series is a foil to Harry, but they conflict with the protagonist, but not the antagonist. And they can reveal different paths for the plot. So who thought that Draco would just walk away? Nobody did. So you can have a foil as a type of development. Mater is also a foil. He's not necessarily a bad character. Yeah. He's a protagonist. He can, again, a main character is almost always a good guy. But villains can be protagonists, but it's almost always a good guy. But usually it's the main character, decision maker, goal achiever, story mover. So yeah, I use the word almost. It's nearly always a good guy as a protagonist. A foil can be, as I say, just an opinion. So just a few points to consider. So yeah, villains are very rarely protagonists. It's something that can't really. It's difficult to be a protagonist in a established world. It's difficult to be a villain protagonist because usually you've got the protagonist. Sorry, protagonists can be anti-heroes. Check out all the cyberpunk. They can be anti-heroes, but you can get them anti-heroes, but you still got those traits there. And it's very difficult because your protagonist is your main story feature. So villain is subjective. So we'll have a look at some points to consider. It can be difficult making your OC a protagonist in an established world. Very difficult. Also, we're going back to that original point of integration. So they are, but an antagonist, yeah, I suppose I can see how it works. Don't be afraid to put your OC as a secondary character. They are important, very important. Secondary characters are absolutely essential to the plot. Yeah, so like I said before, be very careful with statics. Stereotypes may offend. So you have to be extremely careful. I personally, if you're not au fait with static development, steer clear of it because stereotypes can offend. Even if you may put it in for comedic effect, you don't want that sort of view. Experiment with development. your character could fit into any one of those 7 traits, so experiment with it. And finally, if your OC has learned something, make it stick. It may take several lessons, but please make it stick. Don't have them learn a skill, don't have them learn a development plot or learn something in one story and then for it to be completely removed in the other. But yeah, so yeah, you can have, yeah, I see what you mean, but it is rare for a protagonist to be a villain. So Alexander Hanneman was his worst enmity. So Fleas see Fluttershy. Yeah. So you can have several lessons, and this is what I'm going back to traits, is your behavior, your trait can overpower a lesson. But through repeated lessons, you can make it stick. So while Fluttershy is shy, she's had repeated lessons on to be confident. Okay, different types of confidence. Like, for example, when she learned against, when she got a fear against the dragon, and then she had a different type of fear when she overcame being on stage for the Ponytones. And those 2 fears are slightly different. But she learned something from both. She learned how to be assertive, but then she also learned her limits because she didn't quite go on stage that time. And draw on past development and learning. Making notes is a great way of keeping track. Please make notes. If you're developing a character over a number of years, make a note on that character. Have books. I have books on my OCs where I've just thought, okay, let's learn that. And then they can draw on that experience, because remember, your OC doesn't have a memory. Your memory is their memory, and you can lose them. So thank you very much for listening. I think we've got about 4 minutes, so that was very quick. Yeah, notebooks. Any questions at all? Does anybody have any questions? I say thank you very much for listening. I know it was a lot to get through. I didn't expect that to be nearly an hour. Any questions? Questions are closing. We'll stick them in. Oh no, maybe not. It's fine. Thank you. I hope everybody got quite a lot out of it. I know there was a lot in there to take, and obviously you can take away the traits, which is very useful. But the 7 stages of developments, definitely look into those. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love your username, Culdifel. Yeah. It's definitely worth thinking about development in detail, because this is where your character will stand out. These are points that will really stand your character out. Do I like genies? Yeah, genies are great. They make good OCs. Thank you. Genies work very, very well as OCs. You can make anything as an OC. There's no sort of limit, really. But yeah, there's no sort of limit. You can make anything an OC. My traits: caring, charismatic. I am proud. I can also be very forgetful. So I can be forgetful. I can be silly. I'm well-rounded, definitely. I have a lot of sugar. So yeah. So I also can be quite. I say quite a lot. I do have quite a few negative traits, but yeah. But my biggest traits is I'm forgetful. I can be quite silly. I can be uninspired at times. So that's one of the traits that I can be as a negative. It's my OC. Yeah, I drew that a few years ago. It's actually a self-portrait. So, but yeah, it's a selfie. But I have OC. So the little duck girl you saw earlier on, that was an OC of mine. I would say if you are looking towards having a physical sort of trait in there, like autism or Asperger's syndrome, do your research. It's very important. You must do your research because having one of the things I did was I researched into non-verbal traits. I have a character, an OC that I created that is non-verbal, and the amount of research I had to do for that is incredible. So you can use physical traits, but be careful and make sure that research is bang on. If you have Asperger's, you can draw on your own experiences. So definitely worth looking into that. But yeah, how controversial to be describing a character as having autism? You should be able to apply all these to characters that do have that do have I don't like to use the word disability. I hate using the word disability. But you can apply these to anybody at all, no matter what situation that they're in. Yeah. So, draw on your own experiences with OCs. Really, really do. Got any other questions? I'm really sorry the question and answer session was actually really short. The last time I did one of these, it was actually really long. I don't know what time the next one is. I'm just going to have a quick look. We're fine. Yeah, but thank you all very, very, very much. It has been lovely. It is time. Yeah, okay. I think I've been told to wrap up. So, but thank you very much, everybody. As I say, any questions? I am in the chat all day. You're more than welcome, but I am around all day. So you can find me on social media. My social media name is Sarah Frell. You're more than welcome. So you can, in fact, I'll put it in here because it's a bit weird spelling. So that's my username, my second username. And you can find me also on my YouTube channel called Doncaster Drawn, which is more about trains than anything else. So, if you're not into trains, then that's fine. You don't have to go into that. But if you type in that onto UK PonyCon, onto Facebook, DeviantArt, fanfiction.net, that's pretty much me. So, but yeah, by all means, just ask me any questions at all. As I say, I'll be around all day. I'm just going to be doing some drawing and some bits. And yes, let's start with the bread memes before I go. Come on, guys, bread memes. Who's going to do bread memes? Any more bread memes? No. There we go. Let's do some bread memes. Go on, I'll include some as well. There you go. There's bread memes. There you go. I promise you all, bread means you can have it. Hey dear. You do realize Bex is going to kill me. There we are. Well turned into bread. Thank you very much, guys. I do appreciate it. Thank you.